Right on. Nick, well, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is exciting.
Thank you, bro. Glad to be here. Thanks for the
You down
invite.
in South Florida, right?
I am. I am in South Florida. No longer Miami, but South Florida, yeah.
Yeah. How do you like you moved up a little bit north, right? A little bit north?
Yeah, I don't want to say exactly where, just
Yeah.
because people are weird sometimes. Like, I don't know. I've gotten some weird DMs and stuff like that. But yeah, I went a bit north, and I think Miami's good, but it's becoming, like the Scottsdale meme of internet marketers, just like all the scammers in e-com in 2017, 2018 went to Scottsdale. And I'm not saying there's a bunch of scammers and whatever in Miami, although there are. I'm not saying everybody is. It's just a little like there's like a stigma around it. That's like one thing. The other thing is I was living in the middle of the city, and like I'm 40 floors up in an apartment building, and all I am surrounded by is Wi-Fi routers. And I feel like just every night you go to bed and it's just like 50 Wi-Fi routers just frying you. And I was just kind of sick of that, sick of living in like directly in the city. And I wanted a little bit of a change. I wanted a house. And so I left Miami.
Yeah. No, the EMF Wi-Fi router discussion. I had a guy named Tristan Scott on, and we went like deep on that.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy recently made a comment about he went to do some work in the middle of, I'm in Austin right now. He went to go do some work in like the public library downtown. And he's like, dude, the EMFs, like they're everywhere. And I was at first I was like, okay, bro, like that might be a little bit like you might be looking into it a little bit much, but I really do think there's merit to that. Like I think it's an overwhelming amount of pollution, like EMF pollution.
It can't be good. It can't be good to have a bunch of frequencies just like coursing through your body and just like all day, every day. There's something there, especially, with the phones and, if you've seen any of these EMF readers, they hold it up to the phone, how people get like the cancer behind the ear and stuff like that. They talk on the phone too much. I definitely buy into it for sure.
Yeah, there's a reason that people are drawn to the ocean or to national parks or to forests and all that stuff. Like, I think that's a primary reason. Obviously, There's a ton of other reasons like grounding, sunlight, all that shit. But, dude, first I want to get into. I'm very intrigued by people's stories, like just how people got to where they are, how different events led to different outcomes, and also just hearing people describe their own story. I think is an interesting exercise for you, the guest, because it forces you to like delineate. So I'm curious how you got to where you are from where you were. Like, you can go back as far as you want, be as vague as specific as you want, but
Yeah.
the general overview.
I answered this question on a podcast the other day because I decided, I got your message, I got a couple of DMs, like, let's go on more podcasts. Okay, cool. Let's build up the backlog of clips and let's have some cool discussions. And I answered this exact question. And I think that how I got to where I'm at is like, yes, it started when I dropped out of college. Definitely started there, but it also started before that as a kid and as a teenager, and the habits that I was building and what I was doing, it led me there. So like as a kid, my dad, I'm sorry, one second.
No,
Let me
you're
turn
good.
off all my sounds here.
You're good.
My bad. There we
No,
go.
you're good, man. I've had much worse, dude. I started a pod one time with a guy. I did it outside, and within 10 minutes, I swear to God, there's literally a dude using an angle grinder like 15 feet from my head for the whole pod. So I'm like, this is fucked, but no, you're good.
Yeah, that shit sucks. We had one where a dog was barking the whole time. It's just like,
Yep.
So I turned everything off, so we should be good now.
Right.
My bad. Let me start over. And so I definitely know that it started when I was in college, and I just started getting fed up, and there was a lot of pain there of like that situation. But even before that, it started with what I was consuming, what I was doing, the lessons my parents were teaching, stuff like that. And I think that a lot of it comes back to valuing my personal energy and the gifts that I have. And in general, what I mean by that is like my dad, for example, was always very good with money. And he taught me to value money. And when I look back at it now, and he taught me from a young age, right? Like 3, 5 years old, just like little things, just like how you purchase things, stuff like that. And it's not about being stingy or saving or anything like that. it's about harnessing the power that money is. Money is just power in paper form, or in this case now it's like digital and you got Bitcoin and whatever. But it's about harnessing that power and then using that power and actually like using it to become the person that you're supposed to be. And I think that, I look back on that and like that's the lesson that was being taught to me from a young age, whether I knew it or not, like kind of subconsciously. And then I discovered, things on the internet, like start looking at different conspiracies. You look at like Alex Jones. I was 14, 15, just watching InfoWars on YouTube before they got banned and just
That's funny.
seeing everything. I was probably looking up who runs the world, and it's just a bunch of stuff like that. And I got
That's the
exposed.
base Nickelodeon. That's like
Yeah.
for a kid
Yeah.
who's like into it.
I got exposed to that stuff at a young age and just like really starting to understand this is how the world works. And so my mindset wasn't in the frame of mind of, even at 14, 15, I knew I was going to start a business of some kind, or I knew I wanted to. I was like sports medicine or some crazy ideas. Like I'm going to own a private military corporation or something. I'm like 15 years old thinking I'm going to do something like that. Maybe it's not the realm of possibility,
Yeah,
but
that's the InfoWars getting in there.
yeah. And that exposure and the environment I was brought up in allowed me to become, I think, the person I was supposed to be. I'm still becoming the person I'm supposed to be, but it placed me in this location where I'm in college, and I'm just like, this is bullshit. I was convinced that I had to go there to do what I wanted to do, and I get there and I realize it's not the case. And then so I'm there just like, dude, this is bullshit. Don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And kind of like the training or the programming that I had from a young age started to kick in. And I'm like, I need freedom. If for a lack of a better term, I need freedom. I need to get out of here. And that's what led me to dropping out, getting a sales job. And then while I'm at that sales job, trying to start the online business stuff and just get to like 10K a month because I wanted to start a business and live on my own terms and not go to a 9 to 5 and not live under that corporate type of structure for myself personally.
Yeah, you mentioned that even from like the time you're 13 or 14 or whatever that you wanted to start a business, was it like ever an option for you that you're going to go get like an office job?
Well,
A quote office job, whatever that
I
is.
knew I wanted to make a lot of money, and I think it might have been like in the back of my head, like, yeah, like maybe it's another option. I didn't really know, because you're not super exposed to it at that age, especially when I was 13, 14. What is it, 2012, 2013, 2014? Maybe a little bit around there,
Yeah.
whatever. But, you don't fully know. But I never really thought I wanted to go into finance. I was never like, I'm going to go work on Wall Street. That was never a thought that ever crossed my mind.
What led you to social media? Like, because, and I want to frame this question because most people, myself included, when I'm fucking even beginning of college, I played baseball in college, so I had a little bit of a different focus. And I kind of want to also circle back onto why you dropped out in the first place. But
Yeah.
most people don't look, or didn't at least at that point in their life, as social media as an opportunity. They use it as like an escape or a vessel to connect. What do you think was the draw for you to look at it as a business opportunity?
I've always thought bigger and looked for opportunities. I was 16, 17 years old thinking the economy is going to collapse. Watching all the conspiracy theory stuff. Somehow I didn't discover Bitcoin at that time, which was, I don't know how I didn't. But I was always thinking about, okay, what's next? What's the bigger thing? Like, what can we do? How can we take advantage of this? Where's the opportunity? I was just inherently thinking about it like that for some reason. A lot of people have to program that and train themselves. I was just thinking that way. And I came across the social media stuff probably late 2017, early 2018 while I was at that sales job. And I started with drop shipping. And all I was thinking about was this is an easy way to make money while I work a normal job. And so it was like a barrier to entry, ease of access, that type of thing. I can do it from my laptop, do it from my phone, never have to talk to any customers. At the time, an 18, 19-year-old kid, I'm like, this is cool because, I'm not a man yet, or I didn't feel like a man yet. And I can interface with the world without having to show my face or without needing to go and expose myself to customers in person. But the funny thing is, while I worked that sales job, I was selling to 50, 60, 70-year-old people, cars. So I don't know. Maybe I was just a little nervous. I wasn't fully confident in myself of like, I'm going to go start a lawn care business and knock doors. I probably could have done that. There's probably a different realm of existence, a different timeline where I own a $5 million a year landscaping business for some reason. But I just didn't take that route. And it's just simply because ease of access, barrier to entry is very, very low. I could just get started, just pull up on my phone, Instagram, and start posting.
And you started with like theme pages and stuff on Instagram, correct?
Started with drop shipping, and I'm like, I'm paying all these theme pages, faceless
Oh,
Instagram
you were
pages.
paying them. You were drop shipping, and then you were paying other theme pages.
Yeah, for promotion for my stores. And I was like barely break even. I'm like, why don't I just become the pages? And then I start building pages.
And then that's where your content creation journey kind of started.
Yeah.
So what was it about? Kind of go back a little bit. Obviously it's an amalgamation of different things, but what specifically about college? Because that is such an like institutionalized thing. Like it's indoctrinated in our minds that we have to go to college to be successful. You found out pretty early, if I understand correctly, that you're like, fuck this.
Within 2 months. I left within 2 months.
What was it about college?
I knew within the first month. I left within 2 months, and like it just felt so sterile. It almost felt like a doctor's office. You're not allowed to do certain things. You go through. I was in this dorm building, 10 stories high. I had a triple dorm with 2 other roommates, people that I didn't know. They were cool. They're nice guys, but I didn't know them. You got a triple dorm, 10 floors up in Pittsburgh, and the winter's kind of coming. It's a little bit cloudy. You're kind of like stuck inside with these 2 people you don't really know. You go into the hall. It looks like a kindergarten, like hallway classroom. You know those kindergarten where they got like the boards and they tack things, but they got a bunch of designs and shit on them. They had all that through the dorm rooms. I'm like, dude, we're adults here. We are adult. We are adults going to college, and the goal is to make money and start a career. And you're putting us in this environment of a child. And so I think it felt sterile. It felt like kindergarten. And additionally, I started going to classes, obviously, because I'm paying for it. And I'm like, this is just bullshit. Well, like this stuff doesn't, I'm like thinking to myself, what's my goal? Make money, start a business, do this. And for some reason, the counselors or whatever in high school had convinced me, and just culture and society in general had convinced me that if I want to start a business, I need to go to college. And I saw that after I dropped out. I'll get into that in a second. And so when I'm there, I'm just like, this isn't the environment for me. These classes I'm going to, what I'm learning is not what's going to help me get to that starting that business and getting rich. I always wanted to make money, get rich. And so I saw that a lot, of that influence of the people that were around me, specifically, not my parents. My parents were very supportive and they understood. They're like, as long as you're doing something, cool. And it would have been very difficult, I think, without that. But my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, other extended family, people I went to school with, teachers, just like counselors and aides and all that stuff. Oh, well, why don't you take some classes at a local college? Why don't you take at least some online classes? You should get a degree of some kind, at least an associate's degree. It would be easy to get your bachelor's degree online. And I'm just like, why? Like, tell me why. Like, give me a good reason. Because I saw it firsthand myself. And it's like, give me a good reason. I never got a single good reason.
If I can interject, I think this is not just pertained to the college discussion. In many ways, it's a lot of things about life. People project onto you because that's like their way of justifying their course or their life. It's like, oh well, if college actually doesn't matter, then why the fuck did I go to college? Or if this thing that I do actually doesn't matter, then that kind of like de-justifies or like makes my life less worth it, if that makes sense, or a part of my life. So I think that's like the underlying reason, but I'm sure you did not get any actually good reasons.
There's definitely that. And then I also think it's how big people are thinking. The guy that makes $200K a year working a finance job, I actually had a friend's dad tell me that it's disappointing that I dropped out and I'm not taking classes of some kind. And so that guy, all respect to him, whatever, providing for a family, cool. But that guy has no realm of like understanding when it comes to you can make millions of dollars a year online and it's possible. I mean, he just can't wrap his mind around that because he's been working his corporate job making 200K a year. He went to college, he went the frat route, he graduated, whatever, and did what he had to do back in the 80s, 70s, whatever, probably 80s or 90s. And he's been working his corporate job for 15 years. And so he's like, well, this is the way. This is how America works. This is how you get rich. You work your corporate job, you keep your expenses low, you have a nice house, and then you invest from here, and it's going to take you 20 or 30 years. And I was just exposed to something different. It's also like the exposure to information. They can't see past, or they couldn't see past um, their existence and what they had done, and they couldn't wrap their mind around it.
Well, I believe that there's like a growing up in the West specifically is it's pretty much just like institution to institution to institution down the line. So people go to
Mm-hmm.
elementary school, which is an institution, then middle school institution, high school, college, which is another institution. Then they go immediately from that institution to another corporation, which is an institution. And all throughout that process, you're getting institutionalized, meaning you're getting fed what these, not to like kill the word, but these institutions are feeding you. So when people don't take a step back or create space or detach from that, they can't, like that guy, I don't know him personally,
Mm-hmm.
but like he can't formulate opinion outside of what he's been fed, if that makes any sense.
The pipeline of elementary to middle to high school to college to your corporate job is a pipeline of domestication in America. That's what America is. It's just domesticating grown men like us. That's what it's meant to do. And that's what they teach. They teach it. They teach the women to say, hey, like you got to keep your husband doing this and that, blah, blah, blah. They're trained to keep their husbands domesticated. And you see it happen over and over and over again. The institutions train us as men to be domesticated. And then everyone just kind of is like, I'm kind of happy with where I'm at. But they're really not. And they're all lying to themselves.
Yeah, there's Chris Williamson talks about this a lot. I don't know the exact phrase or the exact wording, but there's like this threshold that people's lives are just bad enough that they're not bad enough where they would make like a serious change, but they're just bad enough that they're not good. If that does that make sense? Like if their
I would
lives were
say
worse, they
I
would
would
make a
say
serious
they're
change.
they're just good enough
Mm.
where it's just enough comfort to be like, oh well, it could be painful if I leave this, and they don't want to go to the pain because all of the growth, all of the trials and tribulations that you have to go through to get the great things. Nobody built a $50 million business. Nobody got the yacht. Nobody got the jet. Nobody got the crazy car, whatever. Unless they inherited it, and nobody got that without the pain. And so, I think people subconsciously know that they don't really know what it takes because they haven't experienced it and haven't seen it, but they subconsciously know that I'm going to have to go through a lot of pain to go and get that, and I'm comfortable. So I think things are just good enough for people. Just good enough. They have just enough money, just enough food. They take just enough vacations. They have a just enough good a car for them to be like, yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, it's like if it was one step backwards, they would make a change. Like if like if they I don't even know how to explain it. Like if something happened that was a serious negative, they would be like, "Oh shit!" But it's like you said, it's that like threshold where they're just like, "Ah, I could do this." I'm reminded of a quote. I think it might be a title of a book actually. And ironically, perhaps not ironically, a very wealthy guy that I know was the one who told me about this. So I always like correlated it. A students work for C students, and B students work for the government. Have you ever heard that?
A students work for C students and B students work for the government. I haven't heard the B students part. I've heard the A and C though.
Yeah, well, you think about like the government just being so average and blah, like it makes sense that would be like the formula that works out, in my
You know what
opinion.
I think of B students? I think of them working an HR position that pays 62 grand a year in the outskirts of New York City. That's what I think of B students.
That's like a very personified, like specific. That's pretty funny. Um, One thing I absolutely love that you and then Logan obviously was a part of this, but the Associates pod, I think y'all absolutely killed that. I think y'all had some incredible episodes. I'm curious, how did y'all get connected with like Amon Ghazi, Luke Belmar, like the bigger guys that y'all had on there? Because those are like, I mean, those dudes are very, very famous. So how'd y'all get connected with them?
Oh, we just DM'd them,
Really?
basically. I think that those were specific moments where like, hey, I'm gonna be in Miami, and being in a big city, I will say, or having proximity to a big city is important. You know, you look at New York, you look at Miami, you look at LA, where are all the big creators and podcasters at? And what are the three cities in America that everybody goes to? It's New York, Miami, LA. So it's important to be in proximity to those places, in my opinion. That's the first thing. The second is like, how do we get Luke Belmar on? He said, "Yo, guys, I'm gonna be on, or I'm gonna be in Miami for the next 2 days. I want to get on some podcasts. Who's around?" Shot him a DM, commented, also quote tweeted it and said, "Yo, guys, can you guys go comment for this?" And we already had a bunch of people just like tagging us, and just got connected that way. You know, when you have 50 replies to a tweet, that's like, "Yo, at Nick, at Logan, go on their podcast associates." It just says something. And so we got connected in the DMs. He checked a couple episodes out. I was like, yo, we had Iman on, and then boom, done.
Yeah, that's
And
oh, go ahead.
yeah, and really to me, the formula is you have to have a little bit of pull already to make that happen. So like, Logan had, I don't know, 50K followers at the time. I had like 20K on Twitter specifically where Luke posted it. And that's just a little bit of pull of like, yo guys, we have an audience. Here's this. Here's what we're doing. Here's a couple episodes we did. Also, we have a bunch of people watching it, and then you see the people tagging it. It just gives you leverage. And I think someone that has maybe someone has no followers. They got 100 followers, and they say, "Yo, come on my podcast." Even if they had views already, it's tougher. It's tougher.
Yeah, there's less,
especially for big names.
Proof.
Yeah.
In a way, and that's actually something like I have not a big following by any means. Actually, it's pretty small relatively, and that's something that I've learned in the podcast journey is like getting people on, especially early on. I'm at like this is like my 40 something recording, and I've had some relatively big people on at this point. But there's a way to differentiate yourself, and I've been so surprised at my hit rate. Like when I was starting the pod, I'm like, okay, I'll probably get told no like 7 out of 10 times, 5 out of 10 times. It might be 1 out of 10 times, honest to God. And one of the things that I've been doing, like I didn't even DM you. I'm sure you get like probably hundreds of DMs a week, if not more. I think I just like replied to like an actual tweet or something.
Yeah, you know what gets me to reply? Because I know we had talked in the past about like, yeah, let's do a podcast. I'm like, probably later in the future or whatever. I just can't do it right now. But you know what got me to reply and remember our conversation was you commenting and liking my post. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't get back to him. Like, let me go search him up. Let me go say what's good. And that's like what kept the conversation going.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like a question I have for you as somebody who gets a shit ton of DMs, and you actually, I think you tweeted a thread about this recently. It's got to be so annoying. Like I would imagine maybe it's like a little bit flattering, I guess, or like it's good that you have people that are wanting to reach out to you, but it's got to be annoying to get a shit ton of shitty DMs. So like, what's your advice to somebody that's like trying to reach out to somebody with a bigger following?
Yeah, I mean, that thread has it all. So if anyone's looking for it, just go search.
I'll link it in the show notes.
Outreach on my IG or my Twitter, and it'll be there. But basically, dude, I get, and you probably get some stuff too. And I know you're a smaller account, but you probably still get some stuff where it's just like the most stupid stuff. You know, I go in my DMs right now. Let's go read one. Let's check it out, and then we'll explain what's really like. Let's see. Like this guy.
Time.
Hey Nick, want to increase your agency's credibility through a case study and testimonial verifier? Doesn't follow me. Just like a blank account with 40 followers. Just like, what are you doing? And it's like, that's half of the DMs I get. It's turned into a pitch fest on IG and Twitter. And what you want to do is you want to follow the person. You want to seem like you care about them. You want to have a little bit of research and background. If this guy knew who I was, he wouldn't want to be telling me about a case study verifier. We have probably one of the best case study things that I've personally ever seen. It's lead magnet, whatever. If he saw that, he would probably be like, how do I make this better? And then give a personalized pitch rather than just a case study verifier. So it's like, know your customer, follow your customer, actually care about what they're doing, and then build your own brand. Like, I'm not going to reply to you if you have 40 followers and no posts. Don't know who you are, don't know what you do. You have no credibility, you have no social proof. It's not even a personal thing. It's just a subconscious understanding of Is this person valuable and has status or no? You have to come across like you have status. And that means getting in the community, have similar followers, have people that are big following you. And you do that by posting good content. You get into the space. And now you're somebody that can do effective outreach.
100%. And there's also an element of, so like, say I'm that guy and he's reaching out to you, or I'm reaching out to you to try to provide you value, or basically, let's take a step back. Podcast. If I want you on my show, you would be providing me value by coming on.
Yep.
So it's like, how can I flip it and provide you value? So one of the ways I got connected with a guy named Harry from the Meat Mafia. I don't know if you've seen them on Twitter.
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I connected with him. I was like, fuck, dude. I have like, at this point, I think I had like 100, maybe 70 followers. But I had a mutual that I knew and had connected with. So I sent him a DM video and I was like, hey man, I can't provide you any value other than we're in the same town. I know this guy. Can I buy you a coffee? He's like, he knows this guy, seems all right. He sent me a video. That's cool. Went and got coffee, and like the steps that have taken place after that are like,
that's
to
awesome,
the 10th
bro.
magnitude. Yeah, but it's just like an example of, I think, one of the things for me, and I think this is actually why part of the reason why people have said yes to me and a lot of times on the pod is like trying to provide them value in my DM pitch or whatever. Hey, would also like would love to get you some content for your page as well, etc. So it flips
Exactly.
it like, okay, what can I
I was
do
going to
for
say
you?
that where it's like, dude, the short form stuff is becoming the thing. And how do all these guys really get a lot of clips? They live stream, they do a lot of YouTube videos, and they go on a lot of podcasts. And so the more clips that can be provided, like, why am I here? It's like, cool. I think you're a cool guy, and I think this is great. But there's also got to be a value piece to me. And it's like, it's time for me to get clips. And so let's get some clips. Let's do some, let's have a great discussion on the podcast. Let's get a little bit controversial and let's get some clips. And I think a lot of people, that's why you're getting a lot of yeses, is because people are starting to understand the inherent value of, I need more content. I need to get my message out there a little bit more, and I need that distribution. And if I can go on this podcast and I can pull 5 to 10 clips from it, that's worth my time, because that 5 to 10 clips could turn into a bunch of our videos.
100%. And you even mentioned the DM that you just brought up. You said it's like a subconscious thing. It's also just the reality of that you have limited time. We all have limited time. So it's like, you don't get back to that dude because it's actually just not worth your time to do the research. And that's part of, honestly, it's just sales. Like pitching somebody to come on the podcast, pitching somebody in a DM, that's literally just sales.
100%.
So there's so many valuable lessons. And that's actually one of the biggest things that I've learned in social media is, if you use it as a tool, it can, I mean, I'm sure you attest to this, it can literally change your life. And you're actually a living testament to that. It took me until relatively recently, like when I started the podcast, to make that change. What do you think holds people back from making that change to using it as a tool as opposed to being used by it?
Yeah, I want to answer that question. I also want to add one piece of context to the outreach portion of things. If you want to get really good at outreach and messaging people and getting a reply and making sales, get really good at DMing girls on Instagram. Get really good at it and get really good at getting their phone number and setting up dates. Like, and vice versa. You want to get really good at setting up dates with girls, get really good at outreach, because they are the same exact skill. And I think a lot of guys just like, they haven't really talked to girls like that, like, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of people on social media producing rather than consuming, I think a lot of it comes down to opportunity identification. And most people will never identify opportunities ever. Most people are too lazy. Most people came from the wrong environment. Most people didn't learn the right way. They weren't exposed to the right things. What is the majority of media? It's entertainment and indoctrination. That is what the majority of media is. And so if you never have the wherewithal to think outside of the stuff that you're just fed constantly, you're not going to find it. You're just not going to find it. The space that you're in and I'm in and where we're at is certainly growing, because I think a lot of people are starting to search for it. There's got to be something else out here. It's becoming a little bit more mainstream, but it's still not as mainstream to the point that people believe. Like, Andrew Tate is the most mainstream figure from this area of the internet, and he did amazing, and he got super super big. And you see Belmar getting big, you see Iman getting big, you see a lot of people, like getting pretty big, but there's still it's like that. And if you go to the entertainment industry, there's a TikToker here and there and everywhere that is just doing some weird dance and is in the LA Hollywood scene. There's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of them. And so that is always just in more demand, is like the entertainment piece of things. And I just think it's like, how does somebody go from consuming to producing? One, there has to be some course of events in their life where they're like, this is an opportunity for me. And I think a lot of it comes down to realizing the pain they might be in. A lot of people, I mean, if we really look at the numbers, a lot of people are on antidepressants. A lot of people are on drugs. A lot of people are on ADHD medication, all these different things. And I think it changes them, right? It makes them less of who they are. And people that are depressed should make a change, but instead they take a drug and then they can't make a change because the drug makes them feel something else. And so people are just kind of walking through life as zombies, not looking for opportunity. And I really just think it's about identifying opportunities and then having the courage to take advantage of it. And we can talk about why people don't, because they're not exposed to it. They're on drugs. They're programmed. Their parents don't know any better. They went through school. Same thing we've been talking about so far. And that's why. I think a lot of people fall into it on accident, to be honest.
There's a book called The Gift of Pain, I believe is the title. And it's about like our bodies physically and how without pain is literally, like, kind of, to use the word that you just said, it's an identifier. Because think about if I didn't feel pain and I touched a stove, then I'm just going to literally melt my finger off. So it's pain that makes you say, oh shit, like I need to change something. And so what happens with these SSRIs, alcohol, drugs, porn, social media, any type of escape is literally just masking the pain that is actually a response to let you know, hey, you need to fucking change something.
It suppresses the identifiers.
100%. And so it's there's that threshold though that like you have to be able to withstand that pain for a period of time to understand those opportunities on the other side of it. But it's what happens is people feel an inkling of pain, and then they're like, oh shit, I need to go do X, Y, and Z thing to escape from it, which is an interesting and a fucking really, really sad reality in my opinion.
Yeah, you can either escape from the pain or you can lean into it and realize what's on the other side. Most people don't realize what's on the other side because most of the marketing is supercar this, watch this, take this vacation, blah, 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 blah. But what got those people to that thing is going through the pain and leaning into the pain, and they don't talk about it and they don't show it. And it's something that I try to show and I try to explain to people, like, this is a lot harder than you guys think it is. It's not, this isn't Miami penthouses and $1,000 dinners every night. Most of the time you're plugged in, you got monitor here, you got phone number 1, phone number 2, you got phone number 3 over here, and you're just getting calls all the time. You got to work. And most people don't realize they got to lean into it. They just think it's start my Shopify store and collect money. I'm going to have $20K next month. This is not how it works.
It's not that simple. The one thing that I want to touch on, it might be the most viral piece of content I've ever seen on Twitter. Actually, it is for a fact. The tweet you posted a couple weeks ago about the dude going to, first off, that's fucking absolutely hilarious. This dude just going to Target. And you tweeted, I think the tweet was, social media has got grown men posting like teenage girls or something. Yeah. Why do you think that went so viral? Like that, what did it get, like 40 million?
42 or 43, I think now.
Insane.
I didn't expect that to happen. I noticed it was going viral, got 100 likes in like 2 minutes, and I was like, whoa. I don't get 100 likes in 2 minutes. I get like 100 to 300 probably on average on my tweets. 100 likes in 2 minutes. That's insane. And then it's at like 1,000 first hour. I'm like, what the fuck? And it just kept going and going and going. And I went to bed at like 13 mil, And I woke up and it's like 35. It like doubled, tripled almost. And so why did that go so viral?
Like that particular piece of content
I
with the
yeah,
message.
I think it went so viral. You know, we're guessing, right? I mean, we're just dissecting here at this point. Based on everything I've seen and what I know, that thing went incredibly viral, mostly because it is like just so relatable. People are actually thinking that. And a lot of what I like to talk about is putting yourself into the and saying the things that people are already having a conversation about in their head or already thinking. And that to me, that piece of content clearly tapped into what people are already thinking. Like, yeah, what the fuck is this 35-year-old dude doing? Filming himself, putting clothes on, getting showered, putting cologne on, and then put his tripod down and then swung the car around and parked it,
Bro.
and then filmed himself pushing the car, and then filmed himself in line. And look, dude, I respect it. Like, I have a lot of respect for that guy, and I didn't want to say like, yo, like I'm fucking with it. Like, he's probably making a bunch of money. He's like doing his thing. Like, I respect it, but I wanted to call that out because what we do at Launch Socials and what we do for our clients and what I try to do is be myself and be authentic and not need to go and do all the gimmicks and all the tricks and all the little things like that. Is literally just like put my thoughts out there, and your thoughts and your proof of concept and who you are is like what should grow you and what should win, and that's how you build a real brand. That guy's probably not going to ever have like super loyal followers because he's not really bringing anything to the marketplace. And so in that case, it was we tapped into the people that are having conversations in their head already of like, yeah, that shit is ridiculous. This guy's calling it out. Now a bunch of people are like reacting to the tweet, making TikToks about it, crazy stuff it almost became like a trend. It was like Target run guy was the search bar, and there's a bunch of people just reacting to the fact that this guy put a tripod in the line at Target and then walked out the store and then walked back in to grab the tripod and then walked out. And I was just like, this is crazy. I would never do that, but I respect it and I understand it.
He is creating, yeah. So I appreciate the nuance that you provided there. Like, whether or not the content is valuable, or like, I would even argue the fact that he had some level of perceived gratification on the back end of that justified him making this video, meaning like he had to think this is a good idea. And the reason he thought that is because people consume that shit. So, like, more power to him. He's creating content. But you also touched on something like brand authenticity and loyal followings. And you tweeted something a while ago, and I remember this vividly. You said something about Rogan, like not doing SEO, but he's the most famous person in the world. Why? Because he's literally just posted fucking 4 podcast episodes a week for 13 years.
That were good.
Yeah,
and
they're authentic.
Podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like he's trying to fucking clickbait. So I have a friend though. I'm curious to hear your point on this. I have a friend who says he succeeded despite that, not because of it. What are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean by despite that?
Despite not doing any, like, he's literally does no SEO. His descriptions are literally one sentence, and his titles are just a name. Yeah. It's like he doesn't do any SEO, but he's Joe Rogan.
You know, I'll use someone else as a good example. Emma Chamberlain. You might know who she is, might not know who she is. Very big YouTuber. When she first started, she kind of blew up out of nowhere. First couple videos, no SEO, no crazy titles, nothing like that. Was she an industry plant? I don't know. I don't care. I just look at it like that went crazy. You look at Sam Sulek right now. Blowing up out of nowhere, super raw, super authentic. He's also kind of an anomaly. 20, 21-year-old kid, just like mega jacked, like huge, right? Like probably will be on the Olympia stage at one point, probably juiced to the gills, right? He's someone that is a bit of an anomaly, but he's not using any SEO, anything crazy. What he's doing is just putting out pure volume, and he has something unique about him, something that's like perspective shifting for people and something that's like different. And he's just putting it out there. And I think that the SEO stuff and this and whatever, they're optimizers. They're tricks. You know, a way to get more views on Reels. That's a trick to get your good stuff seen more. But if the underlying message and the underlying story sucks, doesn't matter how many tricks you use and how much SEO you use and all of that, it you just it won't work. So
Yeah.
the underlying story and the product itself has to be great. And even if the SEO sucks or the edit's a little bit weird, people will appreciate the authenticity and the quality of the story and of the message and of the product of that content and what it is, and they'll see it. That's just what happens.
What do you think is more valuable, quality or quantity?
Well,
I guess it depends
good
on where
question.
you are on the
It's a
journey.
good question. I think quality, but it's very nuanced. If you put out quality but you only post one video a year, it doesn't matter if quality's better. Quantity probably gets you further in that point, right? Probably want to reduce the quality to like 90% as good as it could be and double the quantity. That's so it's like, to me it's a balancing act. The quality versus quantity is a very just, I don't know. It's always a question that I'm like, dude, why not both? Why don't you just put out a high quantity of the quality stuff? Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know how to do that. We'll figure it out. Like figure out the way to do it.
Yeah,
And
I think go ahead.
the easiest way to do it is just inherently having good thoughts, in terms of good thoughts that can be turned into content, and being able to just like pop them out like really quick. Raw, authentic video, but that has a good story is quality content, and you're able to do it in a high quantity. But if you have to highly edit everything and very much almost make things sterile to a degree and kind of like package it up, it's going to be harder to put out quantity.
I'm obviously you're familiar with Alex Hormozy. He talks about who's honestly kind of a good example of just a fuck ton of really high quality at a very high quantity. He obviously has a massive team helping him with that, but he has an idea that's like you have to put out quantity first so that you learn how to create quality.
That's what I tell all my clients. It's like, dude, you're not going to know how to make a good video until you make 100 or 200 videos and you learn from it.
Yeah.
And it's not just the quantity. It's you put out the quantity and then you ask yourself, what went good with this? What went bad? Why didn't this one work? Or why did this one work? And then you're just looking for patterns. You're learning your market, and then you're just optimizing over and over and over and over and over again. And so if you put out that content every day, whatever medium it is, whether it's Twitter and writing or LinkedIn or Pinterest, it doesn't, like I'll name all the weird platforms. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the same process. It's just like quantity, quantity, quantity. Why did this work? Why was this bad? Let me iterate. Let me make changes. Let me test. Let me do new things. And then the quality just slowly catches up. But if someone sits there and is like, I'm not going to put this out until it's 100% good, they're just going to be sitting there for a couple of years saying, I'm not going to put this out until it's 100% good. And then nothing ever happens. And meanwhile, the person that did put out the quantity is just like ramming it more and better quality than that person will ever have because they just tested and they learned.
100% agree with that. I think that's an incredible point. And there's so much to be said about that, specifically in like the way I relate to it as a podcast. When I was thinking about starting a podcast, I had all these things where I'm like, okay, well, I got to get this mic, I got to get this camera, I got to get this, and this. Fuck all that. Literally just start. Like record a podcast on your phone. Have you ever watched, I bring this up all the time. Have you ever watched Joe Rogan's first podcast episode?
I have not. I've heard it's like pretty shitty.
It's atrocious. It's it's literally horrible, bro. Like I would never listen to the whole thing ever once in my life. But he posted it, and then he posted another one. Then he posted another one. 2,000 fucking 100 episodes later, he's Joe Rogan. So there's so much merit to what you just said. And I think it's the start that stops most people, man. It's like we build up these justifications for things as a protective mechanism because we're like, okay, well, the video has to be good. So that means I can't start it till now. All that really is just a justification for procrastination in a way.
I also think people care about what other people think. And if they post something and people are like, you're getting 0 views, they don't want to look like a loser.
True. That's a good point.
And I think that plays a huge role. And
pretty much 100% of the time, if you start doing something, you're going to suck ass at it first. So it's like, you're just going to have to. I kind of want to switch it up. I got asked this question one time, and it was one of the most thought-provoking questions I ever got, honest to God. If you had to devote your life, the rest of your life, like drop everything you're doing, to prove the truth of one conspiracy theory, what conspiracy theory would it be?
Well, the funny answer is flat Earth, but I wouldn't. I don't believe in flat Earth. I don't even know. I don't care because it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's hollow, whether it's round, whether it's flat. But regardless, I think that's funny. I think that's a good question. What's your answer?
You know, I've thought about this a lot. I think the whole adrenochrome Pizzagate thing would be my number one because just the level of pure evil that I think that is, and the how it ties into like every other quote conspiracy theory. And you know how this is kind of a funny little tangent. I have a doctor in Atlanta who's just like the most base doctor in the world. And for reference, like, you know how you go to a doctor's office, they'll have fucking like HGTV on the TV. You go to his office and it's literally like videos about Pizzagate, about like the vax injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
But he calls himself a conspiracy truthist. But I would choose like the adrenochrome, like Hollywood elite trafficking ring. I think that's way more real than people realize.
Yeah. So I agree that it's way more real than people realize. I would say that. I mean, the first thing is I would never have to, and I would never want to devote my life to something like that because I think it's a waste of time. I think that's the first thing. And I think that people that get too involved in conspiracy theories are just like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
like, go build something, go create something. That's how you actually like make a change and actually fight the conspiracy theories. Is you go build something, then you gather power, and then you have resources that you can go and change things in the direction that you want to change things on.
My,
But
just to interject, my buddy Noah has a phenomenal quote about this, or phrase. You criticize by creating. That's what he says. And I'm like, that's the most true thing.
yeah, 100%. And it's like, I'm glad you're talking about it, but you're not doing anything. And so it's important to be aware of all the conspiracy theories. It's important to be aware of the islands and whatever is going on over there. But it's also like, I can't change anything in this current position. I cannot. It just won't happen. And if I tried right now, I'd get killed. Right? If I really tried in the way that you could change it, maybe you'd get killed. And so my answer to that is probably like the UN 2030 agenda, World Economic Forum, that type of stuff. And reason being because I think a lot of it's interconnected with cryptocurrency and like what they're actually trying to do. And I think that's the bigger, like, all the people that sure are on Jeffrey Epstein Island and the adrenochrome and all that stuff, they're the people that are running those things. And I think the more important thing to expose is the fact that they do want to enslave people, like, actually. And that is their attempt. And their attempt is to create a digital currency and have total control. And so exposing that and then building separate systems to that would be the thing that, if I had to choose, not that I would, but if I had to choose, that would be it.
I think that's pretty valid. I think Amon actually put out a video, like the quote Great Reset or something like that, within the last year, where he did like a super deep dive on that.
Yeah, it's for one of his challenges. And so I bet the information's probably good. I bet it was watered down. I didn't watch it, but my guess is it's watered down because it's for YouTube and he's trying to sell a product.
Yeah.
And so it's like probably not the full story.
Well, what I was getting at is that, like, even if it's watered down, like, to make a stance like that on YouTube is pretty.
Yeah,
you're
I agree.
And so this kind of ties back into something that's happened to you. You got banned on Instagram.
Yeah.
Why?
I
Did they
think
tell
it
you?
has something to do with like the ID verification, stuff like that. I think that's the real reason. And all the fake accounts that pop up and just reporting and stuff like that. I'll admit though, sometimes I say things I shouldn't say on there, say words I shouldn't use, and just stuff like that. I bet it probably doesn't put me in a favorable position when I try to talk to support to get my account back. But I don't think that's why I was banned. I think I was mostly banned just because there's a weird verification type of glitch, and what happens is anybody can get anybody banned on Instagram. That's what happens, and they do it via impersonation. And so if you have your profile pick up, they'll make a bunch of fake accounts, or they'll try to contact somebody that has a legacy verified account, which is a verification that exists on the platform before the paid thing. And so you can change your profile picture with that type of profile, and it doesn't get rid of the verification. You don't have to submit ID. You don't have to do anything like that. And what they'll do is they'll change the profile picture to yours, and then on the feed, they'll just put your profile picture a bunch, all your pictures, stuff like that. And then they'll submit a claim that says you're the fake account and I'm the real one. Look how I'm verified, stuff like that. And your account will be taken down.
I've gotten
And
followed
so,
by a ton of Nick Rogers.
yeah, it's ridiculous. There's probably a dozen right now. And we know how to take them down, but we can't take them down because I have a black profile picture. And the only way you take people down for impersonation bans is that they have the same profile picture and name and bio as you. But if I put my profile picture back on right now, I will get banned. And so it's just a weird position to be in.
Yeah.
It's kind of shitty. Instagram's got to get control of their platform, dude.
It's pretty wild, honestly. It's like a wild goose chase. It's like the Salem witch trials in a way on Instagram. But that kind of ties into, I know that like conspiracy was like a like a weird tangent or kind of like a odd change, but it kind of ties into the reason I brought that up, because Twitter is obviously where the majority of your platform is, where I think you've kind of like grinded your teeth in terms of personal branding. Why did you feel drawn towards Twitter?
It was just easy for me. You know, getting on video, there's a lot. But I have to do it more. You know, obviously we're on the podcast. Got a couple of YouTube videos like being edited. Got a couple more ready to film. Really starting to make a push on shorts, like sort of, not like fully yet, but like really starting to make a push there. And Twitter was just easy, dude. I'm working all the time. I can just grab my phone. I can drop a tweet. It's done. But video is where the real money is made. Video is where the real trust is built. Video is where you go and build a loyal audience of followers. And that podcast, short form video, long form. And so the short answer is it was easy. But now for me to grow and go to the level that I want to be at, it's video. It's just being everywhere all the time with just like maxed out pushing volume. And I'm not gonna sit here, and this maybe goes back to the discussion that we had at the beginning, right? Where I'll sit here and say, I think I can be similar in size to Grant Cardone at some point. But Cardone's been doing it for a decade in terms of the personal brand online, and he was doing a bunch of stuff in person and stuff back then. I'm only really getting started with my personal brand. But I think I have the potential and the energy and the work ethic and a lot of the mindset that's similar to Cardone in terms of his volume output approach, that like I could be that level. And that's what I'm thinking about and aiming for. And maybe I end up with 250,000 followers each platform. That's cool to me. I can build the business I want to build with that, but I can still go to bigger levels as well. So short answer, it's easy, but long answer, it's not going to be forever. Like Twitter's cool, but it's not going to take you to the promised land. You don't build a real business brand on Twitter.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a ceiling to the scalability on Twitter specifically. So it's kind of like, how do you merge the authenticity that Twitter allows with the volume and marketability that Instagram, YouTube, all those other things allow?
So you put your ideas on Twitter as tweets, and you see what does best. And then the ones that do best, you turn into videos, whether on YouTube, whether as shorts, whether stuff like that, or you just bring them as pieces of content and you put them into the proper format for the other ones. Because Twitter's easy. I can sit and tweet all day, 5 tweets an hour, boom. If I really wanted to, if that was my only thing that I had to do, sit and tweet, I could do that. And it's just about finding the best ones and that perform the best and then pulling them to the other platforms.
That's a good point. That's kind of what's the word? Like a market test as well. Like a test demand for that idea.
You're just testing ideas. You're testing messaging.
You posted a video recently, and I actually posted like a little thread even before I saw your video about like wealth. It was like your cash flow thing where you're like, this dude makes 20K a month, etc.
Yeah.
The underlying message that I got, and the reason I'm saying this is because this is the lens that I look at it through, that I tweeted about as well, is like, I want to become wealthy to liberate myself, not to accumulate material things. And that was kind of the underlying message that I got from that video. Is that something that you align with?
100%. I think the 1 or 2 material things that I care about are, I want to have a beautiful home that I own, or maybe multiple. Right now I rent just for like ability to move if I need to find the place I really want to live. But I want to have a beautiful home that's a good spot, a healthy spot for a family with garden and all that stuff. And sure, that might be material to a degree, but I also look at it as a tool and a way of like having comfort in life. And the other material thing is probably at least one crazy car, but probably multiple. I had one on order a while back, didn't end up taking delivery of it, but I'll get something crazy at some point. It's just because I like driving fast. Like I
Yeah.
love cars, and so for material things, that's all I care about. A watch, maybe I'll get a watch if it has meaning to me, like big milestone reached. Buy me and my dad matching watches or something like that. That's how he taught me so much. He helps me manage my investments, mostly. So I just focus on the business. He manages the investments, and so hit a big milestone. We both get matching watches. That's cool to me. That means something. That's like we share that together. If he passes away, that watch goes to my son, and so that means something to me. But like material things in terms of I'm flexing this in Miami and I'm doing all. I've been there. I've dabbled in it. I've done it. The $1,000 dinners get old, you know. And so for me, it's all about material is not the way to go, but the allocation and collection and acquisition of resources. So like resources being power, resources being land, resources being cash flow and money, resources being a network, resources being just different assets, apartment buildings, stocks, etc. And so for me, the cash flow goes to resources that builds up power, and that power and energy and whatever you want to call it can be then used and transmuted to then go and reach bigger goals and actually affect certain things, such as going against the World Economic Forum or building a sustainable farming network or something along those lines. And for me, just buying a bunch of material things is a waste of time. I think there's a line of I want to enjoy life and I want to have a good environment for me, my family, my girlfriend, all of that. But I don't need to impress anybody. The customers that I want to get, I don't need a lifestyle market to them. The lifestyle marketing they care about is, are you a good person? Do you do cool things in terms of like, do you have some experience? Can you actually get me results? Are you a serious person? Do you know how to invest? Do you have a cool family? That's what they care about. That's what they buy into. It's all lifestyle marketing at the end of the day. It's just a different version of it. And in this case, mine just happens to not be material. And I think the material route is you're mostly talking when you go and show it and you put it out there. You're mostly talking to like shit munchers and just people that don't have any money and people that are young being like, oh, that's super cool. Anyone that's serious and understands it knows that it's not hard to go and buy a Lamborghini. It's just $2,000 a month lease payment. Like, cool, dude. I'm proud of you. But so it doesn't attract the right audience and it is a waste of money.
Yeah, it's definitely there's like a trap. I think that the reason that it's so encouraged and so heavily pushed, and even like on the algo, it's just enticing because it is like especially young men, it incites some sort of like status reverence.
Yeah.
But I also think it's not intentional maybe, but the product of it is that consumerism, like when you get stuck in the consumerism market, like you continue to buy and then you continue to buy, which is
Yep.
actually just making other people wealthy. So that's like my paradigm of wealth, of becoming wealthy changed entirely when I thought of it that way, because accumulation really is a dead end. There's a ceiling to the fulfillment you can get from life. But you just mentioned something I didn't even know this. What's it like working with your dad, man? How does that's pretty cool.
It's super cool. I mean, we don't like super work together, but it's like, hey, dad, the business made this much money this month. I just dropped it in the investment account. You take handle the stocks, handle the funds, whatever. Nothing crazy. He's not doing anything insane, but it's just like watching the market, taking a look at it. And I think the bigger thing is it's not like we're solving massive problems together and stuff like that, but it's a shared goal that we can have together. And what father and son really have shared goals that they work on together? Not many. And that shared goal is we're going to build wealth and we want to continue passing it down. If you know anything about the Rothschilds, they started an irrevocable trust as a family. They put it all into life insurance. And then the descendants of John D. Rockefeller were told exactly how to use this trust and how to continue operating it and continue building it and continue compounding. And if you compare him to, like, let's say Vanderbilt, the Vanderbilt family doesn't have any money anymore or anywhere near close to what they had. And to me, it's about that. That's why we're doing it together. And it's like just a family thing at the end of the day. I hired my sister. My sister works for me. Um,
What's that like? Like
hired,
the point I was trying to get at, I just have like this reverence or like the idea of working with family. I just think is so cool.
yeah.
What's it like working, maybe not even with your dad, but like with your sister and with your family? Quote,
It
because
just
that's not common. That's definitely not common.
it's definitely not common. It's very satisfying and fulfilling, is what I would say. Just like how many families, like I said before, don't have a shared goal? Most of them. Most families in this day and age are going through the motions. You think of your stereotypical white suburban family. Dad works, mom probably works at this point, kids are in school. They don't know why they're in school. The dad doesn't really know why he's working. The mom doesn't really understand like why, other than we have to make money now and we have to take care of our kids. But there's no shared goal. There's no shared objective. They never really thought about it. And so me being able to do that is just super fulfilling.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a really cool. I look at a lot of things through tribal lenses, like through the lens of like ancestral tribes.
Yeah.
And if you think about your point of shared goals, that's everybody in the tribe had a shared goal, and it was to survive.
Yeah.
We're so isolated now that everybody's got these separate goals, and it's just one of those things that like that I was refreshed when I heard you say that about like even being involved in any way, shape, or form with your dad in terms of
It's just incredible feeling.
was that a
Incredible
goal
feeling.
of yours when you set out?
No, it wasn't a goal, but it was probably always like a subconscious thing. And it's just something I've always cared. I've always cared deeply about family, very family oriented. And it just sort of just became to be. It just sort of happened. And it feels great.
Where are you from originally, if you don't mind me asking?
New York, upstate New York.
Okay. And why Florida out of curiosity? Like what compelled you to move to Florida?
Um, Originally, it's like I went to Miami, and Miami was cool. And I'm like, yo, we could probably live here, and sunny all year round, beautiful weather, and the taxes. But honestly, the cost of living down here is expensive. I don't know how most people are surviving. To be honest, I paid $4,400 in rent, and I'm constantly. I tweeted about this the other day. I'm constantly kind of battling between the fact of like, look at that place down the street next to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's place. 3 streets down, that's $35K a month. I could do that. But also, I go on my Reels feed, and for some reason, they're showing me Houston, Texas rental apartments for $1,200 a month,
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, like, why am I paying $4,400? And so it's a weird dynamic there. But yeah, the cost of living here is it's up there.
What's I don't know how many employees you have at Launch Social total, but like what's it like being a young dude running a team? Like what have you learned about yourself or people in general from running a team?
Dude, it is the biggest learning experience I think that most people will ever have, and certainly one of the biggest ones that I've had so far. It is interesting when you have two people that most people on the team are about my age or a little bit younger, but we also have a couple guys that are older, and it's interesting when you have two people that are 32 years old that both have young babies, like just born this year, that they like need to be taken care of, and they're all in, bought in on this. And so if they're all in and bought in, and me as a leader have gotten them to that point, well, I better make damn sure they're able to take care of their family, and that really teaches you a lot about work ethic and what really matters and stuff like that. And you know, every single month is a new month. Got to make more money every single month. Doesn't matter what you did last month. Every single month, the cycle repeats, and it just keeps you on your toes. It just reminds you of like, this is real.
What have you learned about yourself specifically through business, like through your entrepreneurial journey?
I just think that business and entrepreneurship, when you try to push the envelope, when you really try to push it, you start to become more of yourself. Like this, I said this the other day, but I've become more of myself as I've gotten older and as I've learned these things. Is you start to inherently just be. At least for me, that's my experience. I think other people might be different, but I was never the guy that was crazy about parties or drinking or anything like that. And entrepreneurship and building a business has forced me to think about life choices and what my options are and choose the thing that is long-term objective looking, like what's my long-term objective, and choose that route rather than choosing short-term focus. And that bleeds into my life. And it's like, let's say you choose to go out every Friday night and you do that for 4 years in a row. That builds and builds and builds. It's cumulative. All the alcohol or drugs or whatever, or the late nights and whatever that is, it builds and builds and builds and puts you in a hole. And the opposite of that is I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay thinking long term. I'm going to work super, super hard. And I'm going to get the ultimate reward, which is whatever you want. Crazy farm, you want the supercar, you want a crazy house. That is what comes from it. And it shifts your focus, especially when you have a team, towards long-term thinking. And what I've learned about myself is really what I want out of life. Like the painful moments and the moments of struggle and making sure you make payroll, making sure you're able to pay your bills at your business without going into debt or doing anything stupid. It just teaches you to do what's actually right.
Yeah, I once heard it said that entrepreneurship is a vessel for self development. It's like it's a way for you to develop yourself through another vessel, which I think is
It's the
pretty
best
apropos.
spiritual vehicle. It's the best spiritual vehicle around. I think that these guys that want to do ayahuasca, I don't know if you've done ayahuasca or not, or DMT or anything like that. But these guys that want to do that shit, they can do it all day. I don't think they're connecting and learning anything on a spiritual level any more than anybody else. I think the best spiritual development and the way you learn all about yourself and all about the world and everything that there is to realize about your choices as a human and what's possible is done through building a business, a
Yeah,
real business, not
d-
just like a solopreneur, whatever, like just going at it.
yeah. There's a growing not demand. What's the word? A growing like appeal for like the solopreneur journey, which is not something that I'm super called to. I part of the reason that I've always wanted to build my own business or create something is literally, or a podcast is a perfect example, is like connecting with people. And I understand obviously you're connecting with people even if you have a solopreneur business, but I've always like the team building. That's why I was fascinated or curious about your
Yeah.
answer, because like that's one of the main draws to me. The solopreneur business, like working by myself in my apartment all day, doesn't really appeal to me. It seems
Yeah, I
like
could
fruitless.
do I could do that, I could work by myself all the time. That's fine. But I think it if you're a solopreneur and you're making a lot of money, you if you're a solopreneur and you're making a lot of money, you're inherently a bit stupid if you don't try to scale. Because if you're at 2 mil a year and if you add two pieces that takes things off your plate and leverages your time and you start to create and build through those other people that are highly incentivized on your team, you go from 2 to 8 really, really quickly. And so you're leaving just tons of money on the table and you're not pushing. You're not trying to max it out. You're playing a little too safe, a little too cautious, a little too Dave Ramsey energy. And that's not for me.
Yeah, I like the no debt, no risk ever type
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
That's
Basically.
pretty funny. Do you follow Colty Bra on Twitter?
Yeah. We've
So
talked before.
yeah, the Kill Crew guy. He's actually one of my favorite follows. Honestly, I think he provides like a lot of unique insight. And one thing he tweeted recently was basically about like how people will believe in God and then like not act, and then wonder why their life's not where it is or where they want it to be. But then other dudes will literally just act, and then look around at life and be like, oh wait, there has to be God, like because their life is so
Yeah.
beautiful. What do you think about that?
Agree 100%. It's like the guys that are crazy about law of attraction. I'm glad you're crazy about law of attraction. The law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, is real. It is 100% real. You are putting that energy out there. You are trying to attract that into your life. But guess what? If you don't do anything and you sit on the couch all day and scroll TikTok, nothing's coming for you, dude. Nothing's happening. You think you're going to grow a following and you're just scrolling? Not happening.
Yeah. Well, that
And
kind of
so
stems back to that creation over consumption paradigm. Like you have to create something for that to be
you
in
not
existence.
only have to believe that it's possible, you have to go and do the work. And if you're just, oh, please let it happen, if you're just
Yeah.
just doing that, it's not gonna happen. 100%. You got to be a producer, not a consumer, or you got to go and make things.
The one thing I'm also curious about in terms of like, I don't even know how old you are. You're probably similar age to me, but
How
the
old are you?
24,
Yeah, we're both 24.
right on. So one thing that's interesting to me is like the whole idea of managing time. I'm like not managing time, but utilizing time effectively. Um,
Yeah,
and being 24, being a young guy, having a team of people, having 3 phones, having all these different things going on.
7 phones.
You have 7 phones
I got a lot right over here. Yeah,
for what, bro?
just managing Instagram pages.
Oh, you have like a phone per Instagram page,
No, 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 multiple Instagram pages per phone.
bro. 7 phones? You have like numbered stickers or something,
No, no, they're just here.
dude? That's wild. Um, holy shit. That what's that song? Kevin Gates. I got 2 phones. That's fucking. That's weak, bro. But how do you like go about juggling all these things at such a young age?
I think a lot of it is just stress tolerance being built up. Wouldn't have been able to manage this at 19. Would be way in over my head. But now it just is how it is, and you learn, and it is just the way it is. And so if you get dropped into a multi-million-dollar business and you've never managed it before, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on, dude? I can't take this. I'm gonna freak out. You know, especially in the past year and a half, I've really learned how to manage stress really well. It comes down to a couple things. Realizing that basically every time something bad happens, it's going to be okay as long as you keep going ahead. If you sit there and think about it too much, you're kind of fucked. And it's going to lead you to a bad scenario. Um, Understanding just long-term mindset of why I am doing this. And then additionally, managing my time the right way so I can get things done. And that means saying no to a lot of things. Oh, like, can we go grab coffee? And I know you used the coffee example earlier, but like someone DMs me, I don't really know what they got going on. There's no value prop. Can we go grab coffee? I'm in X town that you're in. Dude, I don't know you and I got stuff to do, and it sounds a lot better to make money right now than get coffee with a random stranger that has no value proposition. So I'm just going to do that. Or a friend wants to do this. Or I got to run a business idea by you. Or I want to go here. You want to go to the movies tonight? Blah, blah, blah. And they're kind of an acquaintance or whatever. It might be cool. Just saying no to a lot of things. I learned that a lot in Miami because there's always something going on.
Yeah.
It's like, what really matters to me? Getting what I want. In 30 years, are these people going to be in my life? Or am I going to want to have a beautiful family with a beautiful house and a beautiful brand and be able to make changes in this world? And the answer is the second. And those people will still respect me if I go and do that. And so the choice is very easy for me, is like, go and do that. So it's saying no to a lot of things, is limiting my time spent on calls, especially. It's very easy to get caught up on calls. You could spend your whole day on calls and you have a team of people and you have hundreds of clients like I do. Very easily you could just be taking calls all the time. Like, here's my time, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times it's about finding a solution to the problem that call or that thing is supposed to answer in a more efficient manner. Can we solve this in 3 voice messages rather than a call? Most times, yes. So send the voice messages and really just set that precedent and set the expectation with all your clients, all your customers, all your team, your family, your friends, etc., that this is what I do and here's what it is. And honestly, people go and appreciate it a lot more. When you go and show up to something, when you say no to a lot of things, it's like, holy shit, I'm so glad to see you, dude. It's amazing. And it's just learning to say no, learning to decline.
Yeah, this is Hormozy talks about this as well, and so does Williamson. But about the idea of like the lady in the red dress. It's as you progress through your like journey as a man and life in general, that red dress becomes more appealing. Like those, it becomes harder to say no to things because the things that you said that you say no to now, 10 years ago, you would have been like, holy shit, yeah, like let's do it. So you have to like learn this tolerance. And there's another paradigm that I kind of picked up and like to look at: respect over popularity. Like popularity is very fleeting. Like your popularity, if that's where you want your what's the word, favor in society to be held up
Yep.
in, popularity is very fleeting. It'll go up and down. But people, like you said, you say no, no, no. People will be like, you know what? Okay, you come to the thing, they'll still respect you. My question is, how do you reconcile the difference or maybe the opportunity cost between like some of those opportunities being worthwhile that you just said no to off the jump?
Long-term thinking. It's like, does this get me to my goal? Yes or no? And every time, not every time, but the majority of times I've gone something that I'm like, doesn't really add any value to my life or in general, and mostly moments that are forgotten. And so what matters to me more and what's a bigger cost is the cost of what I really want in life bigger and not achieving that bigger, like wasting time. It, is it a bigger cost to not get what I want, or is it a bigger cost to say no to a lot of people? And a lot of times it's like I'm always going to choose. I'm always going to choose the long term end goal vision every single time. I would so much rather be here working dialed in, making the ads I have to make, or getting results, or cooking up the new offer or the new way we're doing this, or changing and tweaking this one thing that's going to make us way more efficient long term than going and getting dinner or doing something crazy, or I don't know, just doing some stupid shit. But I'll choose something that's fun and I care about and that's important to me every time. Like I'll go shoot guns every single time.
Base.
I'll go to dinner with my girlfriend, at least once a week, every single time, because it's a special moment. It's important. I'll let's see, for example, I'll talk on the phone with my parents every single time. I'm not going to say no to that. I'm not going to say no to my parents coming and visiting. But if it's just like some fleeting little moment and it's like some dinner and then we'll go to the club, dude, let's do it. And you might network with this one guy. It's like, dude, that guy, if I have what he wants, he'll network with me anyway on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter.
There's one of the things about a podcast that I did not realize before, and I'm sure you can relate to this even with like Amon and Luke and other big guys that y'all have talked to. I thought I was just going to be recording conversation I was already having. It's like 10x better than that, because you're exactly right with the coffee example. If I said, yo, Nick, if I sent you a fucking DM when I'm in South Florida and said, yo, Nick, I have zero connections with you, I don't know you at all, can I buy you a coffee? You would have said, you wouldn't have replied. And in your head, you'd have been like, fuck this guy. But, but
no, I wouldn't say that, but
nah, I know, I'm kidding. But like in the scheme of it, for some reason maybe it ties back to the value creation, because the fact that I have a podcast is at least of some value to you. So it's just, I've always just found it interesting, at least thus far in my podcasting career, quote, in like the last 4 or 5 months, is people, if I said to anybody, yo, 2-hour conversation, let's go have coffee, I don't know you, they will say no almost 100% of the time. But if you change the word coffee to podcast and then have even a tiny bit of social proof, 99% of the time they'll say yes.
Yep.
It's very interesting.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Basically.
Forgot what you just said before that. What were we just talking about before that?
We were talking about also I have a call at 2 coming up, just so you know, I got prepared for a little bit ahead of time. Right. But we were talking about choosing and the cost. And
guns. Yeah, guns. This is, what do you actually go shoot a lot?
It hasn't been a lot recently, but once in a while.
Is that something that you're like, that you enjoy doing? I like shooting. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I think I'm not super big into it, but I think it's important because it's America.
Yeah.
And where else in the world can you really express those rights? And guns are cool. Guns are fun. I got a Glock 19 and an AR-15. Probably get a smaller Glock soon, so I can conceal carry. but I'm not crazy. Like I don't have a gun cabinet, nothing insane like that. Maybe when I have my own land and whatever, build some kind of gun range or whatever. But it's fun. I think it's important, right, to express. I think it's important for people to own guns.
Yeah. Do you have you ever been hunting?
I have not.
Is
I have
that
not,
something that you like
unfortunately.
are trying to
I
get into?
definitely. Um, I'm not like super excited about trying to get into, but I think it would be cool to do, and I just think it would be important to know the simple things that come along with it. I've been fishing a lot, especially when I was younger.
Cool.
So you got to know how to gut a fish,
Yeah.
kill a fish, whatever, all that stuff. I know all that, but I think kill some bears, kill some deer, whatever, and really just learn the ropes to that. I think I'll do it at some point for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned the Bears, and it actually reminded me of something. I met with my grandpa for lunch, who's 85, and I tweeted something about him because I think he's just an absolute legend. And this kind of ties into like optimization, but I mean, he's killed bear, moose, elk, caribou, probably hundreds of deer, bobcat, like literally everything. He's been all over the Western Hemisphere, went on a fishing trip in the Amazon, all this crazy shit. So I say that because I do think that that's like important. That's definitely something that's been ingrained in me. But the reason I think he's a legend and relates to this conversation is he was like the least optimized dude ever. Made millions of dollars throughout his life. Um, he hasn't worked in a long time and still makes a lot of money from his investments.
Yep.
And he fucking ate whatever he wanted, drank all the time, smoked cigars all the time. What is your take on like the optimization culture as it relates to entrepreneurship?
When you say optimization, can you define that in your lens?
Like having a 12-step morning routine that takes an hour and 5 minutes and
Yeah.
finishes at 6:07 a.m. every single morning, or like having to have X, Y, and Z stacked to do X, Y, and Z task, like that type of deal.
I think elements of optimizing your life are important. It just comes down to like what you want. I don't think anyone needs a 12-step morning routine unless what they're doing and their ultimate goal calls for it. A bodybuilder is going to probably need a much different morning routine than me. It just calls for a different physical demand. A professional swimmer, let's say Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps' optimization for what he wants in life is going to be completely different. And so I think that the key word for me is optimization for getting what you want. Everyone that cares about getting what they want optimizes in some regard. And so for your grandpa, probably let's not even take him as an example. Let's use Hormozy as an example. Hormozy didn't optimize in terms of the morning routine and this and that. He woke up, he got coffee, and then he worked. And his optimization was how fast can I get to the computer? How early can I get up and how fast can I get to the computer? Because that gets me everything I want. And so for me, I think a lot of people buy into I got to do yoga and I need to do the ice bath and I have to do the sauna before I start working. And that is procrastination. But real optimization is deciding what gets you to your goal and going on that path as fast as possible. So I don't even like to use any of that stuff as optimization or whatever. The blue light glasses, I probably need blue light glasses. Don't care, doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to do the work that I have to do and see what happens. And so it's like don't do the extra shit that doesn't get you to your goal. Actually optimize. People optimize. It's that shit doesn't help you, dude. Like optimize for your actual goal. Okay, you need to be healthy. You need to eat pretty well. I mean, have some cake or whatever the hell you want here and there. Like don't be, grumpy all the time and hate your life and hate the food you eat, but enjoy it. Make sure you're healthy. You should probably be hitting the sauna because sauna is going to keep you healthy. Along with the gym, you need to be lifting weights. Maybe you run. You need to do some cardio of some kind. You need to be healthy. You need to be in shape. You also should have a decent social circle. You should have a woman in your life if you're a man. If you want multiple women, fine. Or you should be dating to find that one. And then you should really ask yourself what you want and then focus on that. You don't need the 12-step morning routine. You don't need the crazy thing for your sleep or whatever. Just make sure your room is dark and it's cold and you're comfy and you're probably going to be like 90% of the way. Good luck. And so for me, it's that. I will also say is if your sleep sucks, don't be like, oh, I can't optimize it. That's gay. It's like, dude, no, like if your sleep sucks and you don't know why, like measure it. Like get the ring and measure it. And then understand that when you eat high carb, whatever, high glycemic index food before bed, it messes with your sleep of some kind. Or you drink coffee at 9 p.m. Why am I not able to sleep good? Dude, you just drank coffee at 9 p.m. every single night this week. That's probably it. Oh yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And so it's like little things like that.
Yeah, there's the idea of, I mean, it's cliche, but keeping the main thing the main thing. I think we get pulled in so many directions. And I also think Hormozy, I think it's such a valuable challenge too, because I do think it's like the Huberman, like extremely rigid routine is becoming popularized, I think. And Hormozy is just like, dude, that's a crutch. And I especially in my baseball career in college, I was 100% neurotic about it. Like I was like, I have to be in bed by this time. I have to do this stretch before practice and this and this. And
Yeah.
ironically, my best year of baseball ever in my life was the year I didn't give a fuck about any of that. Which I'm not, it wasn't until after that year where I was like, oh shit, none of that actually mattered at all.
I just think a lot of it's about balance and seasons in your life. A different season calls for a different thing, and I just think balance is important. You know, a routine is important in general for most people. Most people are going to function better on some sort of like, I go to bed at the same time, my circadian rhythm is set, I'm a healthy person. That's going to lead to like good things, especially if someone's drinking all the time or something, they got something going on. Like, let's fix that. But also not having the routine also loosens you up a little bit. You're able to like kind of do certain things. So if you're in a season of like period of like grind work, like go for it. Have that season of I'm gonna optimize a little bit. I'm gonna have my routine. Cool. But I also know that for a month I'm gonna go travel in Italy in 3 months from now, and that's gonna be my like downtime, like my relax. Like I'm gonna take a step back, and I'm in a different season for the moment, so I can come back and hit the routine even harder. And so to me, it's just balance. Let's feel it out. Let's understand that we want to stay healthy and we don't want to, because I think when you say that, you're a smart guy and you know exactly. You still like put the work in for that baseball season, but a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh shit. So basically, I can go out and drink until 4 a.m. 4 nights a week, and I'll be fine, dude. Fuck the routine. And it's just like an excuse for them not to work hard and not to go after their goals. And this isn't that either. It's just a fine balance of like everyone's on extremes. Let's pull it to the middle of like be normal.
Yeah, I think your point right there is well said. It's not like an excuse to be lazy. It's a change of focus. So like when you're neurotic or about your routine, like your routine is the focus as opposed to what the routine is supposed to bolster, which is
Yeah.
the main thing. Like for my case in that context would be baseball. For business for you, the focus became being good at baseball as opposed to having a good routine.
Yeah.
So obviously there's things like I'm not going to go fucking drink, even though like I do have a story which I find so interesting. Pretty much my best and one of my most important games I ever pitched was against UVA. 3 days after my brother got married, I was in the wedding, got fucking 4 hours of sleep 3 nights in a row, drank every night, didn't throw a baseball one single time, came back to Richmond, and absolutely shoved against UVA, who was like 8th in the country at that point. So it's like that. I vividly remember that because there was a valuable lesson in there. Because I think moderation in all things, including moderation, is extremely valuable advice. There are times where you are not going to be quote optimized and you're still going to have to get shit done. So it's like
Always.
you have to have that resilience. I just think that's so important. So I was curious to hear about like your perspective on that. The one thing I'm fascinated by as well, like I got told this is the $1 million question by a mental performance coach that we used to have at Virginia Tech. And he said, if ever you get the chance to talk to anybody that's like in a position of value, ask them this. So my question is, what do you know now as a 24-year-old in the position that you are that you wish you knew when you were starting your business?
Just double down on your winners. That's it. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Double down on what's working. There's nothing much else to it.
That's interesting. So like, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just going to ask, do you think that is that a challenge for people to try to like not do that? Because I feel like that is that not the initial inclination, or do you feel that people get drawn in other
I
directions?
think it depends on your IQ level. You start overthinking things. It's like the bell curve. You're in the middle. You start overthinking things like, why is this working? Now you're dissecting it. You're wondering, do I do something else? How can I optimize it to be better? When if you just did more of it, you posted 4 short videos a day and it grew your brand. Post 8, post 12, start another page, get secondary accounts, dive into it. That's getting you towards what you want. But the thing that a lot of people do is, okay, so I'm posting 4 short videos a day. This is cool. Should I start writing tweets as well? Should I change something so I get better clips? It's like, no, dude, it's working. Double down on it. Stop thinking about all the tricks and all the gimmicks and all the hacks. And I used to do that when I was younger because I was immature and I didn't really understand. And the thing that I've learned now is this works. Okay, more. How can I 10x this tomorrow? So double down on the winners, basically.
I love that advice. I think that's really good advice. And we're pushing the hour and a half mark. I know you got to bounce. So I got one more question, and I like to end most of my podcasts with this because I think it's such a valuable question for you as well. Tyro means novice or beginner, stems from the Latin word meaning young soldier. And to me, a Tyro is somebody who's in an arena, picking up their sword and they're running towards the middle. Because I think a lot of people, we're all in an arena, but some people are trying to get the fuck out. Some people are hiding in the corner. So my question to you is, what is the arena that you're picking up your sword and running towards the middle of? What are you fighting for?
It's a really good question. To me, it stems back to what I started to learn as a teenager. You start to see the conspiracy stuff. You start to see who runs the world. The things get released about the islands and the blackmail and all that stuff going on. And then I start to build a business where we help grow clients that then affect the way culture moves in certain spaces. And it's not on a crazy, crazy big scale, but cumulatively it starts to build up. And then it's like, well, what comes after that? What do you do with the money? What do you do with your investments? What do you do long term? And for me, it is resource acquisition and the acquisition of just power in general, which typically is money and network and stuff like that, to then make a change that I feel is needed in the world. And that change right now is we need to influence people better online to make better choices and better decisions and build up the right wing, whatever type of space that we're in, and not promote OnlyFans girls and OnlyFans managers and that bullshit. And that's where we're at now. But to me, that's a path towards getting the cash flow and getting the resources to do something bigger while still being true to myself. And what is that bigger thing? Is it a private military corporation? Is it lots of farmland and you own farm to table, restaurant, grocery store, etc.? Maybe. I at a certain point will want to solve a problem on a bigger scale that large corporations currently solve with big pharma or big food, goy slop, whatever you want to call it. And I want to be able to make an impact in that arena long term. And to me, to get there, I have to build the resources and the network and the cash flow up to not only affect people online right now and make an impact here, but make an impact on a greater scale that people can see on a larger stage. And so to me, it's going against everything wrong with the world. I'm eventually, I'm 24 right now. I'm not old by any means, but 10 years from now, I want to be able to make an impact against that stuff, against the World Economic Forum, whatever shit is going on there, against that, because that is everything that's wrong with the world.
Yeah, that's well said, and I support you in that endeavor for sure. There's this idea. Danielle Boyelli, who I don't know if you've heard of, shared this with me, or not with me directly, but he shared this online sometime. But he said it's hard to be a pacifist around someone who isn't. And the reason I think that correlates is because you can it's hard to make change around people that are not trying to make the same change as you unless you have those resources. So it sounds to me like you're trying to basically just accumulate those resources so you can make those changes, which I think is a
It's
worthy cause.
it's about being able to have a voice and have a seat at the table. If you aren't the guy worth billions, you don't even get to like even attempt to have a seat at the table. It's not about having $1 billion or having this net worth or whatever by a certain age. I tweeted the other day, if I don't have $100 million and 10,000 acres by 30, I'll feel like I failed. And people were just getting pissed off, and that's not possible, and just projecting limiting beliefs on me. And it's like, you guys don't even see the big picture. I'm going to have $1 billion. But it's not because I want and care about $1 billion, because I want a seat at the table, or I want to be able to make an impact on a certain level. And I care about doing that thing. And to do that thing, you need certain resources to do so. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that point, but
No, it's valid.
basically,
That's a valid point.
I just want to add some context there.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the answer to that question. That's usually a pretty thought-provoking question, because it forces, like, whenever anybody that gets asked that, you have to like delineate, okay, what the fuck am I doing this for? You know? And perhaps it's not something that people think about on a regular basis, but
and I'll add a final point there. It's about getting to the point where you can have the choice. The choice between, do I want to live my quiet life with my family on my farm and just kind of retire and relax? Or do I want to go all out warfare and try to make an impact on this and risk my life or whatever it looks like? A lot of people have been killed trying to go and do crazy things that go against the quote system. And so for me, I am building to get to the point where I can make that choice. And I'll know what the right choice is at that time. Do I retire or do I go all in on it? And I'll probably go all in on it just because that's who I am. And it's just like, fuck it, let's do it. But it's building for that choice and nothing more.
Which is that's really what sovereignty is. Sovereignty is the ability to choose. So that's one of my like guiding lights in terms of words or phrases is just sovereignty and vitality are the two that I typically lean towards, because I think they go hand in hand, and without one you can't have the other. So
that's awesome, bro.
Good time to wrap up. Nick, I sincerely appreciate your time, man. This has been a phenomenal conversation.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the conversation with Nick. Touched on a lot of really valuable things, I think, as it relates to utilizing social media as a tool for business in general, long-term plans, just actionable advice. I really enjoyed that conversation. I thought it was valuable. Nick has a lot of valuable insights given his experience. I appreciated him coming on. It was a really insightful conversation. Follow Nick at NickRGRS on Instagram and Twitter. He's a good follow, posts a lot of valuable content. And until next time, stand firm in the arena.